Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about what many are calling Russia's worst day of the war, a day when Ukrainian missiles struck deep inside Russian territory, shocking Moscow and sending waves of panic across the country. The scale, precision, and psychological impact of this attack have changed everything. It's no longer just about the front lines, it's about the heart of Russia itself now feeling the reach of Ukrainian power. This was not just another cross-border shelling or drone strike. This was something far more strategic, far more devastating. Multiple explosions were reported across key Russian regions, including major military and logistical hubs far from the active battle zones. For the first time, cities once believed to be untouchable by Kyiv's weapons found themselves under attack. People who had once watched the war from afar were suddenly hearing air raid sirens over their own homes. Early reports suggest Ukraine used a combination of long-ranged missiles and advanced drones, many of which were modified for deeper penetration into Russian airspace. These were not random attacks. Every target was carefully chosen: military airbases, fuel depots, radar stations, and command centers. The intent was clear: to send a message that nowhere in Russia is safe if this war continues. Videos from inside Russia showed massive fireballs lighting up the night sky. Locals captured terrifying moments when explosions ripped through warehouses and ammunition depots, causing secondary blasts that lasted for hours. The panic on the ground was immediate. Russian emergency services scrambled to control the fires, but the scale was overwhelming. Military analysts around the world are calling this a turning point. For months, Ukraine had been asking its allies for longer-range weapons to hit deep inside Russia. Until recently, such attacks were limited due to political caution. But now, with Western support and technological upgrades, Kyiv's forces have demonstrated they can reach targets hundreds of kilometers away. This has reshaped the battlefield completely. Inside Russia, the mood shifted overnight. On social media, Russians expressed fear and disbelief. Many asked how their massive air defense network could fail so spectacularly. State media tried to downplay the attacks, calling them isolated incidents. But the truth was impossible to hide. The damage was too great, and the images too widespread. One of the most significant hits was on a Russian airbase that had been launching missile attacks against Ukrainian cities. Satellite images showed hangars and aircraft destroyed beyond repair. The explosions also disrupted several supply routes critical for Russia's frontline operations. Fuel shortages were reported in some regions, and logistics slowed dramatically. For Ukraine, this operation was more than a tactical victory. It was psychological warfare. It reminded both Russia and the world that Kyiv still has the capability and determination to strike back. After months of defending, Ukraine shifted the momentum. The message was clear: if Russia continues to bomb Ukrainian cities, Ukraine will bring the war back to Russian soil. What's most striking is how precise these strikes were. Unlike the early days of the conflict, when attacks were sometimes scattered, this operation showed careful planning, intelligence gathering, and coordination. It's believed that Ukrainian intelligence, possibly with Western satellite support, identified the weak points in Russia's air defense network. Once those vulnerabilities were mapped, the missiles were launched with deadly accuracy. Moscow's official reaction was predictable. The Kremlin called it a terrorist act and vowed retaliation. Russian media outlets immediately began pushing the narrative that Western countries were directly involved. Yet, behind closed doors, panic was setting in. The question wasn't just how Ukraine did it, but how many more such attacks could follow. Ordinary Russians are now feeling the consequences of a war they were told would never reach them. The illusion of safety inside Russia has been shattered. For months, the Kremlin portrayed this war as something happening out there far from Moscow or St. Petersburg. But now, as explosions echo closer to home, many are questioning the leadership's claims. Experts say this could trigger internal pressure on Putin's government. Russian citizens are growing restless as the war drags on with no clear victory. With each Ukrainian strike deep inside Russian territory, the government's promise of security weakens. That could become a major political problem in the months to come. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian people are celebrating this as a moment of pride and justice. For them, it's not just retaliation, it's retribution for the countless attacks on Kyiv, Kharkiv, and other cities that have suffered under Russian bombardment. In Ukrainian social media circles, memes, messages, and videos flooded in celebrating the success of their defense forces. It was a rare moment of joy in a war filled with suffering. The international community has taken notice, too. Western analysts praised Ukraine's ingenuity and resilience. Many see this as proof that continued support for Kyiv is paying off. Meanwhile, others warn that such deep strikes could escalate the conflict further. Russia might respond with harsher attacks or even consider new military measures to regain control. But despite the risks, one thing is clear. Ukraine has changed the rules of engagement. The days when Russia could attack with impunity are over. Now, even Russian military planners have to think twice before launching new offensives, knowing that Ukrainian missiles could hit their bases at any moment. Some Russian officials have quietly admitted that their air defense systems were caught off guard. The Ukrainian drones and missiles reportedly used low-altitude flight paths and Plex diversion tactics to confuse radar. In some areas, decoy drones were sent first to draw attention, while the real weapons came in from unexpected angles. This level of sophistication stunned military observers. The attacks also exposed a deeper issue within Russia's defense command: poor coordination and outdated systems. Despite heavy investment, many of Russia's radar networks are still operating on Cold War-era technology. That makes them vulnerable to modern electronic warfare tactics. Ukrainian experts seem to have taken full advantage of this weakness. In several cities, residents reported hearing explosions followed by power outages. Authorities rushed to control the chaos, but rumors spread faster than official statements. Some even speculated that Russia was hiding the true scale of the damage. Independent reports, however, confirmed large fires and widespread destruction at multiple sites. This event has sent shockwaves through the global geopolitical landscape. Russia's image as a powerful, untouchable military state has taken a serious hit. Countries once intimidated by Moscow's strength are now seeing its vulnerabilities. It's a psychological blow that could take months to recover from. For Ukraine, the operation serves as both revenge and deterrence. It shows that the nation, despite limited resources, can strike effectively against a much larger enemy. It reinforces the message that the war will not be one-sided anymore. If Russia chooses to continue its aggression, it'll pay a price, not just on the battlefield, but at home too. The strikes also sparked new debates among Western nations about supplying Ukraine with even more advanced weapons. Some are pushing for the transfer of long-range missiles and fighter jets, arguing that Ukraine has proven it can use them responsibly. Others worry that too much escalation could drag NATO into direct conflict. The balance between support and restraint has never been more delicate. Yet for now, the world is watching as Russia scrambles to recover from what is being called its most humiliating day since the beginning of the war. Repair crews are working non-stop to fix the damaged bases, but the losses are immense. Several aircraft, radar systems, and ammunition ammunition depots have been wiped out. Each destroyed site represents millions in losses and months of logistical setbacks. On the ground, Russian soldiers reportedly expressed frustration at their command's inability to protect critical infrastructure. Morale among troops is reportedly dropping as the realization grows that even behind the front lines they are no longer safe. Ukrainian strikes have effectively blurred the line between front and rear. International reactions continue to pour in. Western leaders are cautiously optimistic, praising Ukraine's courage but urging restraint to avoid full escalation. Meanwhile, in Moscow, security has been tightened across all major government and military facilities. Rumors are circulating about secret emergency meetings in the Kremlin, as officials assess how such deep attacks could happen without warning. It's not just the military impact that's concerning Russia, it's the symbolism. For years, Moscow projected an image of invulnerability. But this event cracked that illusion wide open. The idea that Ukrainian weapons could reach deep into Russian heartland is something that was once unthinkable. Now, it's a reality that's here to stay. Psychologically, this could mark the beginning of a new phase in the conflict, one where fear shifts direction. For so long, Ukrainians lived under the constant threat of missile strikes. Now, Russians are experiencing that same fear. It's a reversal that could change public perception inside Russia dramatically. The Kremlin will try to downplay, deny, and distract, but the truth will keep spreading. Every video, every satellite image, every eyewitness account chips away at the propaganda wall. People are seeing with their own eyes that the war is no longer distant, it's home. And that, perhaps, is Ukraine's greatest achievement in this operation. Not just the destruction of physical targets, but the destruction of the myth of Russian invincibility. As the fires still burn in some regions, and the smoke rises over once secure facilities, one thing is undeniable. This was a message heard loud and clear across Russia. The war is evolving, and the balance of power is shifting. Ukraine has proven that resilience, intelligence, and strategy can outmatch brute force. Russia, once feared for its military might, is now struggling to defend its own borders. The consequences of this day will echo for months, maybe years. So, as the world watches the aftermath of these strikes, one question remains. How will Russia respond? Retaliation is almost certain, but with what effectiveness? The longer this war rags on, the more vulnerable Moscow appears, not just to missiles, but to its own internal fractures. Whatever comes next, history will remember this as the day Ukraine changed the war's direction. It's the day Russia learned that even its deepest territories are not beyond reach. The day fear crossed the border in the opposite direction. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more updates and analyses as this historic conflict continues to unfold. If you found this breakdown informative, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more detailed reports on the ongoing war and its global impact.